Good evening. Welcome to Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13 School Board meeting for Tuesday, November 10th, 2015. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome again. We'll start off with roll call, please, Laura.
Lewis? Here. Landwehr?
Here.
Larkin?
Here.
Palmer? Here. And Superintendent Kathy Kelly?
Here.
Thank you. Columbia Heights Public Schools mission statement. Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. Next up would be the agenda approval, adjustments, announcements, and correspondence. First up would be for the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion to move that forward, please?
So moved.
Molly?
Second.
Laura? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The announcements, November 17th, Tuesday at 5 p.m., school board listening session here in the community room. Also, November 17th at 5:30 would be a school board work session. Tuesday, November 24th at 7 p.m. be the regular school board meeting here in the community room. November 26th and 27th, there'll be no school for the Thanksgiving holiday. December 1st will be the school board special election primary, and December 8th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. would be a regular scheduled school board meeting again here in the community room. Next up is correspondence. Superintendent Kelly.
Mr. Chair and members, there's no correspondence at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is communication to the board. Citizen and employee representatives. At this time, any citizen or employee may briefly address the school board. The board will listen to the brief remarks, ask clarifying questions, and if desired, request that administration follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests presented at this time. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay. Next up would be the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the October 13th and 27th school board meetings and the personnel report. Again, if I could get a motion to move that forward, please.
So moved.
Laura?
Second.
Molly? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next up is discussion reports and information items. Reports from members of the board. Board members will report on board activities since the last regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Laura, would you like to go first?
Oh, I get to start. Okay. Well, I did attend the 9/16 board meeting, and we got some updates on the various demographics, and I will provide I'll bring those in, and we'll get that out to all the board members of who we're actually serving. Did you have a question? It's on? Okay. We basically received reports about the demographics that are served through 9/16 and the various programs that we participate in. So I thought that was very interesting to see who exactly, what services we're exactly using. And we are moving forward on the Capitol View Center. And I guess there is talk about perhaps changing the name. So I thought that was quite interesting. So anyway, we'll move along then. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Molly?
I had an opportunity to go to the Unified Bowling event that Columbia Academy was able to participate in at Brunswick and Brooklyn Center. It was an awesome event. Went to the Parent Advisory Council meeting for special education. Also attended conferences for the high school. And went along on a visit with Mr. Nemerov. I took him up on his offer to join him for a home visit with one of his families at North Park. That was last Friday, which it was a great opportunity to really see what the home visits look like for the teachers. So I would encourage you all to take advantage of that if you haven't yet. Also went to the candidate forum last night and just finished watching our adapted soccer team win, and they are on their way to the state tournament. So that is very exciting. Congratulations to all of them. The coaches have done a wonderful job, and the student athletes have really worked hard. So that will be November 20th and 21st. So very exciting time. And that's it for this time period. Yeah.
Ted?
Thanks for the great news. I was at the WEMAP Executive Committee meeting, West Metro Educational Partnership, and the focus there is going to be more on showing value for the amount of per student money dollars, the $16 per student that we're currently paying. So look for more on that. If we actually had to go out to the public and to the market and buy those services, how much more would it cost us? So, and then they're also looking at governance, changing the governance model perhaps, since now WEMAP doesn't have the fair schools. Is it really necessary to have school board members from each member district be on the Joint Powers Board? Also attended, and there's also a meeting tomorrow night with the Joint Powers Board, and Superintendent Kelly, I think, will be there as well. Attended a AMSD meeting, Association of Metropolitan School Districts. I think you got the materials in the update, but just to highlight, the person spoke from the teachers, the TRA, which is the pension fund for teachers, and essentially he said that they're doing a study as far as the benefits, the future benefits, to get a better idea of what benefits might have to be paid out in the future. They call it an experience study. Last year they earned 4.4% on their investments, but they're not sure, they want to get 100% funded. So hopefully through this study they will have a better idea of how much they need to either increase in contributions or increase in earnings to become 100% funded. Right now they're 80% funded in their liabilities, to meet their expected liabilities. And so that was the gist of it. AMSD also has some positions, legislative positions, that they gave the first reading to, and if you can look at those and let me know what your thoughts are on those. In the next meeting in December, we'll be voting on whether to move those forward or make changes. I also attended I'm going to attend the MSBA pre-delegate assembly. I got elected as a delegate again to the Minnesota School Board Association, so I appreciate that. And so I will bring back that material as to what the positions are of the Minnesota School Board Association for lobbying the legislature, and get your thoughts on that, hopefully. I attended a school law conference last Friday and have some materials on how to run a more effective school board meeting, and just ideas from Jay Squires, who's an attorney there, as well as other materials that I can provide those for you. And then attended Lions and Chamber of Commerce meetings, and I was also at the school board debate last night. Thank you to all the candidates. I always learn so much going to those debates, and it's great feedback, and it's always a good experience to understand issues that I had no idea were even existing. So thanks for that, opening my eyes to a lot of things.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, I had the opportunity to attend the high school conferences a week and a half ago now. Had multiple meetings with the superintendent, and the opportunity to have conversations with Member Lewis and Member Palmer. Thank you for taking time to visit with me. I also got to attend and watch the Strikers slide into the state tournament, so that was exciting. It's the first game that I've seen them play, so that was really a lot of fun. Actually, I attended the candidate forum last night as well, and I was enlightened as to what people's thoughts are regarding what they think is or is not taking place at a school board level. So it was certainly enlightening for me in that. I think is it for now. Superintendent Kelly, do you have a
Okay.
report?
Of course I do. Mr. Chair and members, I attended the Pre-K Principals Leadership Series focused on early learning, age 3, grade 3, with Principal DeWitt and Director Kristen Stunkel. This is going to be a year-long training leadership series. There'll be other members from the district on the team, and it's being sponsored by both the Principals Association and the Minnesota Department of Education. And the first day was very, very informative, so we look forward to wonderful things to report back to all of you about. I had the honor of attending the Columbia Heights High School National Honor Society induction program, and I just want to publicly say congratulations to all the new inductees. And I want to thank the high school for such an academic focus on the event and just how well it was all orchestrated. I think both family and friends and inductees had a great time, and the group picture was a hoot. So there you go. Met with the district team on architectural and future facilities planning. Also met with the district negotiations team on issues related to upcoming negotiations. Met with members of the legislature that represent the Columbia Heights Public School District on issues of legislative concern. The E12 administrative team held their first round of non-tenured teacher evaluations this past week, and so that is complete. As Member Landwehr's already discussed, I was at the AMSD Board of Directors meeting, and that was pretty fascinating from the standpoint of the future of pensions in the state of Minnesota and across the nation. I attended a WEMAP Superintendent Advisory meeting focused on future planning, and as Member Landwehr said, I will be joining tomorrow night the WEMAP Joint Powers Board as well for this year. I attended the School Board Candidate Forum sponsored by Local 710, and I want to thank Local 710 teachers for sponsoring that event for our community. I met with various members of the school board, either in person or through phone conversations, and I want to thank you for the time that you've put in discussing things with me. Would like to say belated happy birthday to member Ted Landwehr, and a happy birthday tonight. Thank you, Laura Palmer, for spending time with us on your birthday. So happy birthday
want to
to
be
each one of
anyplace else.
those. How about a round of applause for those guys, huh? I'm done.
All right. It wasn't too painful to sit that long, was it? 'Cause now we're here for the fun stuff. So next up on the agenda is the tenured teacher recognition, and Director Bennett and Interim Director Senvik will share with us the board licensed faculty newly tenured in the district as of July 1st, 2015. It sounds like we have a bunch of people that are going to have an opportunity to talk about you tonight, so.
Well, they're all getting seated. Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly, it's always a pleasure this time of year when we get to have, this year it's 13 staff members that achieved tenure in the district as of July 1st. Zena's going to say a few words about achieving tenure. Each of the principals and directors want to say a few words about their staff members, and then we'll have them come up and get their certificates.
We're happy to recognize this cohort of teachers who achieved tenure this fall. They have dedicated themselves to supporting student development and academic excellence. These teachers are creating future engineers, scientists, writers, caregivers, and leaders. Their work will have long-lasting effect, not only on the lives of our children, but on our society as a whole. They harness the power to strengthen the self-esteem in our youth and instill confidence and provide worlds of opportunity for every learner. Who will speak first, Lindsay?
Thank you. I'm proud to introduce Karen Hartmann. We stole Karen from a charter school where she was an exceptional teacher, and we welcomed her into our Columbia Heights family at Columbia Academy. She was one of the founding teachers of the Achieve program and worked tirelessly and mentored and teaching and welcoming families and engaging them in their child's learning. Then all of a sudden it was, well, we need a teacher for developmentally cognitively delayed students at North Park. And she was just 100% excited. We were thrilled to welcome her to the North Park family. and just cannot say enough great things about the dedication, commitment, and love that she has for our student and family. Thank you, Karen.
I have several people to congratulate tonight. First of all, Jessica Booker, who came to us as one of our English teachers and worked the entire year, and I think has worked every summer school since she's been here, sometimes with broken bones even. So, and maybe especially this year, want to really acknowledge the commitment of Jessica to our kids, and the dedication that she has put forth to them is truly extraordinary. So thank you, Jessica. Aaron Kennedy, who's not here, Aaron is a math teacher for us. He is also the leader of our robotics team. Usually see Aaron, first person in the door, and just left, and he's the last person out. So he's a busy guy with math and robotics. Dan Laskowski, congratulations. Dan is here. Dan is a social studies teacher coming to us from Brooklyn Center. Dan has been active in many different groups in our building, including AVID this year, helping us get that off the ground. Also, a key member of our behavior task force and our whole emphasis on Rise Up this year. Amber Robleski, who we don't see as much this year because we share her with North Park, but really Amber has worked tirelessly at the Academy. She brought in movement. It was an incredibly popular program. Every day I have a student who comes by and says, "Why, Mr. Principal, why did you not have movement this year?" So she is, we miss having her even more in the building, but she is still with us a little bit and does a marvelous job with our kids with PE this year. She also worked on our first swimming program and got that off the ground. Todd Boyd, who's not here, our band director, came from Fair School and is doing a marvelous job, also very active on our equity team. And finally, Amanda Jones. Amanda also is not able to be here tonight, but Amanda also came to us from Brooklyn Center and has a background in AVID, has helped us with that, and has been also a member of our behavior task force and has been sort of solely in charge of developing activities for the entire school that we could do this first quarter around Rise Up. So she has definitely risen up herself in this first quarter. So congratulations, Columbia Academy teachers, on your tenure.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Dan Ronchak, one of our math teachers at the high school. Dan is one of our what we call go-to guys. Doesn't matter what's needed at the high school, whether it be an advisor for a class. He's an avid teacher, one-act plays. I know I'm going to miss something. He's very instrumental in being in the concession stands. And he's another one that he's the first one here and the last one to go. He's more than happy to help any student who's wanting to do the extra help to come in at any time in the evening. Focusing on ACT math scores, doing whatever it takes for our kids to be successful. On top of that, I'd like to introduce him as our TIES Teacher of the Year, one of 2 in our district. So congratulations. We're very proud to have you at the high school, Dan.
All right. Good evening. I would like to introduce Christine McCarthy. She is here tonight from Highland Elementary. Currently, Christine is our LEAP teacher, or grades 3 through 5 gifted and talented teacher for our pilot program. So you know with a pilot, number 1, there's going to be a lot of work, and number 2 is really dedication to meet the needs of all of the students in her classroom. So Christine really goes the extra mile above and beyond in all that she does. That's why she was the perfect candidate for this position. Prior to this year, she taught upper elementary grades at Highland, so we're very pleased that she came to us and that she's willing to take on such an integral piece to the puzzle of a gifted and talented teacher. Next is Isabel Rolls. She was not able to attend. Izzy started as a Minnesota Reading Corps teacher or tutor at Highland for 2 years. And then she went and became an intervention teacher with us and a classroom teacher, an intervention teacher, and now a classroom teacher again. So we're very fortunate to have her. She has a strong background in teaching reading, really able again to differentiate the needs for all of our students. So congratulations to both Highland teachers for receiving tenure.
So good evening, everyone. Emily Gardner. We just talked outside before we came in about how quickly, truly not a cliche, that how fast the 3 years have gone. It's been an enjoyable 3 years. She came to us from Minneapolis School, which promotes additional joy in my heart to have her here. Prior to that, she was taught in Manhattan, public. I don't know if it's public schools. Yeah, public schools for a period of number of years. She's one of our showcase classrooms. It's just absolutely fabulous. Her room, all the artifacts, and so when we do tours, I do selectively. In most cases, go to some rooms that are particularly impressive, and Emily's room is one of those. She's taken on additional leadership responsibilities every year that she's been at Valley View. Her newest leadership role is she's a national AVID trainer for the elementary AVID program. So we're lucky to have Emily, and glad she's tenured.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Alicia Bjork, who unfortunately wasn't able to be with us tonight, but Alicia is actually our first teacher from North Park whom we're tenuring from the Terry program, the collaboration that we do with the University of Minnesota. So she was the first full-year student teacher that we had at North Park. She was there as a student teacher when we developed the second grade learning studio. Alicia was also there as a third grade teacher when we developed the third grade learning studio. There is no one that knows better than she what it takes to be a 21st century teacher at North Park, and we are very, very fortunate to have her.
Good evening. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Chris Pizzetta, who is our parent educator, and that worlds of opportunity for every learner, that parents are also students in Columbia Heights Public Schools, and Chris is their teacher. And he teaches with our ECFE program. He has served in many roles in our early childhood program as our home visitor, as our parent educator, as our early childhood screener. He has helped out a lot in our early childhood room, and then he also serves as a supervisor with Adventure Club at Highland. He also has been very involved with our equity team and with the teaching and learning leadership team, and he's been very innovative in working with so many of our ECFE parents who are English learners. We've expanded that programming, and he's also been a great partner with the Columbia Heights Library in our baby reading program and also now our toddler program. So congratulations, Dr. Chris.
So now we'll have them come up and shake hands with the board. I put the certificates over on that side table. So when I call your name, if you would please come up. Karen Hartmann with North Park Special Education.
You get through the game. Come on.
I'll find it.
Next, we have Jessica. Next, we have Jessica Booker, Columbia Academy, Reading and English Language Arts.
You jump in where you want to. If you want to just run with that one.
Aaron Kennedy could not be here, but he's Columbia Academy Math. Dan Laskowski, Social Studies at Columbia Academy. Amber Robleski, PE and Health at Columbia Academy and North Park. We have Todd Boyd, who's not here tonight, but he's band at Columbia Academy, and Amanda Jones, English at Columbia Academy, who cannot make it. Next up is Dan Ronchek from the High School for Math and Avid. We have Christine McCarthy, 3-5 Excel teacher at Highland. From Highland, we have Izzy Rolas, who could not make it, grade 3 teacher. And from North Park, we have Alicia Bjork, 3rd grade teacher, who could not make it. Next up is Emily Gardner, Valley View grade 5 teacher. And last up is Chris Pizzetta, parent educator with community education.
Now comes that awkward moment with, how do I sneak out of here? Do you have a suggestion?
I'm going to help you with that because Casey Mahan, Director Mahan, would like to take a group shot of all the new inductees that have received tenure tonight. So if you'd meet him at the back, and if anyone that would like to join them would like to go back there, there'll be group shots. Thank you.
That's an out for all of us, by the way. Congratulations, everybody. We really appreciate
Not you,
everything
Dan.
that you do. Okay, next up will be item D, which is early college post-secondary success update, which is
Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. We are here this evening to provide an update on early college and the process for working towards that program. Columbia Heights creates worlds of opportunity for every learner. And this evening, we're focusing on the two main core values of community and excellence. So as part of the development of an early college program, we work with and under the guidance of the Higher Learning Commission, which is one national conglomerate of a group that provides accreditation for universities. So there are 5 elements that kind of provide guidance that we need to follow, which are number 1, credentialing, number 2, rigorous coursework, 3, learning outcomes and high expectations for students, access to learning resources, and institutional monitoring, oversight, and transparency. So that's provided by the Higher Learning Commission in providing accreditation. So what does that mean for us? With that in mind, in Columbia Heights, we're taking several steps to advance toward implementation of the early college program. And I'll go through each of these a little bit more in depth in a minute. So first, we're consulting with experts, and we've been doing this for the last few years, to learn about the possibilities and understand what the guidelines are for really starting an early college program. Another step is to partner with Anoka Ramsey Community College, determine credentials of our staff to make sure that we have certified staff on hand to provide the dual credit enrollment. We are planning and outlining the coursework, developing a communication plan, preparing and supporting students, preparing and supporting staff, and determining what will our criteria for success be upon implementation. And then implement, monitor, and adjust as needed. So those are our steps that we're taking to work towards achieving the early college program. So going a little bit deeper, consulting with experts and learning about the possibilities, going from the one criminal justice course that we have to expanding and brainstorming those ideas. It's been a process beginning a few years ago of planning, consulting with other local high schools, and consulting with experts. We work with Colleen Wambach, who was instrumental in creating the early college program in Mounds View District. We've established a partnership with Anoka Ramsey Community College. We are frequently in contact and meeting with Michael Werner from the Office of Educational Services. He's very excited about this partnership. So the next step is determining credentials for our staff. Per the Higher Learning Commission, the requirements for eligible credentialed staff, we have a 2-year process of ensuring that teachers who will be teaching the early college Anoka Ramsey courses here on site have the credentials. So what that means is a master's degree in the subject area. So say, for example, in biology, or a master's degree in education, plus and 18 graduate level courses in that subject area, again, for example, biology. So we're working, Principal Robleski and I are working closely with Human Resources and the teaching staff to ensure, one, to determine where we're at on that process and that 2-year plan for teachers who need additional schoolwork or additional coursework, identifying the teachers and having those conversations about how to get that done within the 2-year limit. So the next steps are planning and outlining the courses. Our consulting with Colleen Wambach has been instrumental over the last couple of years of plotting what students would have to take in order to graduate with an AA degree. And then developing the communication plan. The Office of Teaching and Learning and the high school has worked closely with the communications department to begin drafting what that brochure and what the communication would be when we get to that point. Next, here you see our newly tenured teacher, Dan Ronchak. We're focused currently, even though we're not starting the early college program officially for a couple more years, we need to start now preparing the students and the teachers. So this year, we have a 9th grade college readiness support class for math. So students are taking identified students are taking an additional math support class, and Dan Ronchak, the teacher, uses a lot of the AVID strategies, a lot of career and college readiness strategies to make sure that the kids understand what it's going to take to, in a couple of years, to get into those college classes and be successful. So that also meant this past summer and this past year preparing the teachers to do just that. So that's an ongoing process. We meet with the teachers and check to make sure they have sufficient curriculum and that they've got plans for the year and that they are able to deliver that instruction. So the next steps are determining what will our criteria for success will be, and how will we begin that implementation process, how will we monitor, and how will we adjust as needed. So one example that we're using this year is taking an overarching goal of that, for example, that 9th grade college readiness math class, and backwards planning for the end of the school year. How will we determine if we're successful with that class, and how will we check in with that class and with the students and the teachers for each quarter along the way. So this is really a way for Principal Robleski and myself to monitor that we are progressing throughout the school year. So in October, we sat down and had a meeting with the teachers and just kind of did a check-in with them. So the first quarter check-in is, do the teachers, are they reporting? Are they telling us they have everything that they need to be successful for this school year for that class? And then we worked with the teachers to determine the rest of the checkpoints and what will the benchmarks be. So we talked about, we'll come in and check out and do some student work samples, take a look at what the projects are, how are the kids progressing, what's happening with formative assessments, what's happening with summative assessments. And by the end of the school year, we hope to see increased math achievement. And so we've talked about what types of math assessments, as we know the MCA math test isn't until 11th grade. So determining what are the math assessments that students can take in 9th grade and working to create those or find those. So we've been able to do that in quarter one and set that plan for the trajectory for this school year. So if there's any questions.
Ms. Cohen, if we don't have a teacher that is, have those qualifications, those master's degree, can we use other teachers from a collaborative, for example, to fill in?
That's definitely an option that we've been exploring. There's been discussion about teachers traveling within the consortium and checking in with students. Of course, there's logistical things that we need to figure out with the teacher's not there. How could we video conference in a teacher sometimes? So yeah, there's definitely discussion about that possibility.
So legally, that's an option right now?
As part of a consortium, it's been done before.
Okay.
There's precedence.
Great. Are we able to use the MAP test to, help identify the ability of 9th graders in math?
So the MAP test, as it increases in grade level, becomes less and less reliable, and that's according to NWEA MAP themselves. So we definitely use it at the younger grades, and at times at the high school we have used the MAP, but when the company themselves tells us that it becomes less reliable, there are other assessments that we're looking at that come out of the College Board that seem pretty promising.
Okay.
One that we're looking at is AccuPlacer.
Okay. Now, are we planning on starting in 11th grade then with college classes, or what's the plan so far?
Yep, so this year's 9th graders, when they're in 11th grade, that's the plan to start.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anybody else? I'm still trying to figure out the math problem up there. So. Have Mr. Ronchek get hold of me and let me know what the answer is on that one, if you would, please.
Thank you. Okay. Next is the advanced placement and ACT results, and you guys are still up.
Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board, we are here to share with you advanced placement and ACT results. Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner. And this evening, with this presentation, are focusing on the core values of excellence, integrity, and innovation.
And I think the good news to report tonight, we're excited to look at our ACT and our AP results. And as you can see on our first slide, 186 students did take the ACT exam this year.
So part of the increase, as you can see from one year to the next, part of the increase was that per MDE, we needed to offer the ACT to all 11th graders, and we're really excited that many more, 85 more students took the opportunity to take it, and it was provided at school. So when that happens, when we increase an assessment and a rigorous college assessment by that many students, one might think that the scores would dramatically drop because more students, any student was eligible to take the ACT test last year. But luckily that didn't happen. And that, as you can see on the screen, the average score was off from the previous year just by about 1 point. And that didn't happen by chance. So Principal Robleski led the school in preparing the students and the 11th graders for the exam.
And one thing that's to look at is that some states, when making it the ACT a mandatory test, did see 3-point drops. So having less than 1% for what we've seen and having that test open for all juniors is we're not happy with the drop, but considering other states did see a 3 percentage or point drop, less than 1% is what we had seen at our school.
So now we're going to talk about advanced placement assessments. As you can see, we offer 12 different courses for advanced placement, 12 different opportunities for students to take advanced placement.
And I think one of the exciting things that you're going to see in the next slides with advanced placement is, and a 5-year snapshot, is this year 152 students did take the AP test. And you can see the comparison to last year in 2014.
So with that, with the 152 students taking AP exams last year, there were 233 exams taken, which means one student took multiple exams, and that was a dramatic increase from the year before. This is another way to show similar data. Principal Robleski talked about the 5-year trend, and this plot and line graph shows that more students at each of the grade levels are taking advanced placement courses compared to 5 years ago.
And on this slide, excuse me, as you can see in the last 3 years, we have an upward trend ticking that we are having more students score high on the AP exam. 11, and there's our 11 award winners this year.
So in order to be named an AP Scholar, what that means is, and 7 of our students were an AP Scholar. So that means they needed to score 3 or above on 3 AP exams. Now, 2 of the students depicted were named AP Scholars with honors. That means that they needed an average score of 3.25 on 4 or more AP exams. And two of the other students depicted are AP Scholars with distinction. That means that they needed an average of 3.5 on all of the AP exams they've ever taken and scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more exams.
Nice.
So again, really targeting that score of a 3 and higher, or 3 or above, you can see the 5-year trend for AP scores at Columbia Heights High School for kids who are scoring 3 or above.
You have questions?
Do we know the pass rate then for all of the tests that were taken, AP tests?
I can definitely provide that data broken down.
Great. Well, it's very exciting more people are taking the AP tests and taking that challenge to do that. That's congratulations.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
And kind of your guys' show tonight, isn't it? Next is the building vision card for the high school.
Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. This evening we are here to present the vision card for Columbia Heights High School. And as always, our mission is to create worlds of opportunity for every learner. And this presentation will encompass all of the core values. I'm going to turn it over to Principal Robleski.
So a few demographic slides as we start our presentation. Our first one, as you can see, our enrollment. Again, over the last 3 years, we've seen an upward. I think the theme you're going to hear tonight is a theme of upward trends. And that will be the theme of our it's a positive. And over the last 3 years, we're excited. As principal of the high school, I'm excited for the staff. I'm excited for the students. I'm excited for our parents and our community to continue to see the work of raising the bar for our students, and that they continue to meet it as we drive ourselves towards an academic institution of high success. Our student body makeup, our free and reduced lunch segment, and tonight we'll be focusing, as we look at the strategic directions, we'll be looking at A and B. So what I'd like to highlight as you look at the first slide, I'd like to highlight the use of formative student learning data, differentiation instruction, Moodle mastery quizzes. What we have as a school-wide goal for our staff this year is knowing that the technology initiative is coming to the high school. Our staff has committed to putting their courses on Moodle. So that is a goal that every staff member, we have weekly meetings with our staff to help them integrate Moodle into their coursework. So that would mean that PowerPoint presentations, worksheets, videos would all be on the management system of Moodle, where if students do miss an opportunity at school, they're able to go back and at home and look through Moodle. So it's an opportunity like Schoology at the middle school. So we're excited to see that the staff has dedicated that as one of their goals. The other area I'd like to look at is 6A. And that's as we celebrated our non-tenured teachers tonight, I'd also like to highlight just a hiring practice that we do at the high school. We start off with an interdisciplinary committee of teachers and administrators where we bring in our pool of candidates, where we sit at a table and we interview and ask questions. From that pool, we narrow it down anywhere from 2 to 4 potential teacher candidates, and we put them in front of a classroom and give them a lesson to do, approximately a 30-minute lesson with students. Some of you might ask, well, how does that work in the summertime? We've had very, very good luck with our students coming in during the summertime. Of approximately, I think we've had no less than 15 students, up to approximately 25 students coming in and pretending to be a lab of class of students where the teachers can present their lessons. We're very proud of that. We think that's really helped our hiring process of seeing which is our best teacher candidate for our school. So we're very excited about our hiring process and our collaboration with our teachers and our students in this hiring process. In our next slide, 7A, the intervention piece, we have the Check and Connect, our Reset Committee, which we've talked about before, which we're in year 3 at the high school, and also our Dean model. We feel that as we continue to work with our interventions, our students are getting the support through Check and Connect. I have another program that we'll highlight later called the 30-60-day program, and we're very excited with having these interventions. As Director Zena talked about earlier, we have our 9th graders who are now focused on the math support, which all, if they're not in AVID or in a higher level class, they're in this math boost, which we're excited about. As I talked about the 30-60-day or 30-day program, which was an intervention support for students coming in from the 8th grade who were identified to needing more support for grades, attendance, and behavior. Last year we saw success with that program. This year we've expanded it to called a 30-60-90-day intervention. So those are our checkpoints with the group of students that have been identified. It's a number of staff working, our Check and Connect staff, our social worker, our psychologist, along with our deans, are working together with a group of 9th graders. So our checkpoints aren't just the first 30 days, it's now 60 and 90. And we're seeing the positive results of it, and that's why we're going to continue with it this year as well. We've hit the quarter mark where we do our first check, so we're waiting to see. That's just happened. We're waiting to see what impact it's had this year. The other area that we'd like to look at is I'll talk a little bit more about PBS under 8A, but I'd like to go down to 11A where we've talked about parent involvement. Again, this is an area, as you can see, we want to improve. But as we look, we've seen an upward trend in our increase on hits on our Facebook site, on Twitter, and the number of parents signing up for SchoolView. Those have all seen upward trends, and we're excited to see that happening. We also have a parent advisory committee that's meeting tonight, and we're really excited about the participation in that as well. As we talk about participation, I think it's exciting. We've touched on it once tonight, our adaptive soccer team going to the state tournament. One other area that we've seen a growth in is our dance line at the high school has registered 31 female students out for the dance line, and that's the most that we've had signed up in the last 3 years. So we're continue to see a program that I believe was started 3 years ago, and at this point in 3 years to see 31 students out for dance line is exciting news. So we continue to see that upward trend and tick in participation at the high school. The one area that I'd like to talk about as we look at our MCAs, again, we have work to do, but exciting news in the last 3 years, these percentages that I'm going to give are over the last 3 years. At the high school, we have seen growth of 6.2% in the last 3 years in our MCA scores in math. And in reading, we've seen a tick upwards of a gross accumulation of 7.5%. And in our science scores, we've seen a jump of 2.5%. So we continue to see an upward tick in our scores, in our MCA scores. And I just want to point out that that's a new group coming in every year that's being tested, as you know. But it's really nice to see that we're not only holding our gains from year to year, we're increasing those gains. So we're excited at the high school to continue to see us move up, and we're excited to see what our students will do and our staff will do with that data under MCAs. We've talked earlier tonight about our ACT participation. Under B13, the last 3 years, we've seen in 2013-14, we've seen till last year a 50% drop in referrals at the high school. We're very excited about that data. And I think that's when we talk about some of the programs in PBIS that we have at the high school, we believe that Real Expectations has had a huge impact on our high school, and I think we've seen it in our academic success as well as the behavior in our school and students feeling like we're a family at Columbia Heights High School. We've talked earlier about our AVID program that we're very proud of, with the percentage of students who are enrolling in college or accepted into college, as well as our partnership with College Possible. Our students are well over the 90% acceptance rate into college in those programs, and we're excited to continue to see that expand and that permeate out to other students who are not involved in those programs. So, as we look at the goals for the high school, we have a goal of math, and I want to highlight that we're looking at target growths for the MCAs in both the next couple slides. But we feel that if our students do hit these target growths, we will see gains again in our MCA test scores, as well as the achievement gap. And I think highlights for the math would be our college readiness support math boost class. We continue to work on our mastery quizzes. This year, we're also looking at OPA testing and seeing where we can help continue to improve our students in the different strand areas that they are being tested on. The goal is the same for math targets in reading. We believe that our strong check and connect program, our MCA math target groups that we've done before in intervention, and continually working with our data team will show growth in this area as well. And as I talked about our reduction in the achievement gap, hitting our target growths.
I think it's, again, we would like to highlight that we do have a full-time family engagement specialist at the high school. We have a strong and working continually with our parent advisory committee and our family engagement committee at the high school as well. We feel as more, as you know, as we partner, we have 3 partners, students, staff, and parents. As we continue to grow that partnership, we will see success in this area as well. So this year we have a goal at the high school of an overall graduation rate of 85%. We believe that with the strong support of the dean model at the high school, our 30, 60 day, 90, our tiered intervention programs, our college and career readiness programs that we have at the high school, including Genesis Works, Avid, College Possible, our collaboration and partnership with the University of Minnesota, our great programs of fine arts, AP, and PSEO. So here we are. What do we have for college and career readiness? We have all these programs that I just touched on a minute ago. I think one thing that we're very proud of is that we offer 11 AP courses at our high school. And so we do offer worlds of opportunities at Columbia Heights High School. As a smaller school in a metropolitan area, we do offer worlds of opportunities for our students. And with the early college program, we feel we're at the forefront of making sure that our kids are prepared for the 21st century. As earlier you've seen our 11 AP scholars. Our achievements at the high school, we had our first, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Miller, our first all-state boys choir was this year, Elijah Vanderpool at the Boys State. We've also all-state mixed choir, Region 5 AA solo ensemble contest, where 6 students received superior ratings and 16 students earned excellence ratings. We've had many spotlights awards, and this year, as we've talked earlier at this meeting, we've won the all gold medallion award at the journalism program for the state of Minnesota this year. We've had 3 wrestlers advance in the state wrestling tournament, 11 gold keys in our fine arts programs, 1 silver award, American Vision Award, and 9 honorable mentions. This is here at Columbia High School, and we are proud of each and every one of these students. And again, we believe one of the strengths at the high school that has really focused us on academic excellence is our customized PBS program of Real Expectations. We also feel that Highlander Nation that you have endorsed has really brought our family closer together, where students have an opportunity to be a family and come and participate in the activities as they hit the academic goals to receive free admissions to those events. And
Did you want me to
no, that's fine. And again, our vision for the future is our continued academic success and seeing that upward tick in MCA scores, our college acceptance rates. We are, as you've seen earlier in I believe it was the first slide, student recruitment and retention. We continue to see that upward tick, and we continue to look at ways to recruit and retain our students. We're excited with the college and career readiness pathway. Our K-12 pathways that we have here in the district, our early college program, and we just continue to strengthen our college preparation program. We also feel that our dean model at the high school has really embraced the vision for the future of our students with preparing them for college and careers.
I think that's the last slide.
Yep.
Yep.
Any questions?
I do have one. I know they had been talking about statewide testing and using the ACTs. And right now you're offering the ACTs at the school, but that is not considered part of the graduation requirements, so we're not implementing it for the entire student body?
It will be offered to the whole 11th grade
But
class.
It's not part of, it's not more or less mandatory. It's just an offering.
That's right. So Last year, the Department of Education asked that we offer it to everyone, and due to funding, had thought about not being able to offer that again. However, during the testing season last year, there were countless interruptions, and that due to the Pearson company, which is the testing company, and then a lawsuit was filed. And part of the settlement is that Pearson will be paying and funding our 11th grade ACT assessments this year for the state of Minnesota. So we will be able to offer the ACT on-site once again.
That's good news.
I got a few. These are great, fantastic things. First of all, congratulations. And I'm wondering, what is the OPA testing? Is that never heard of that.
Sure. OLPA testing is an online practice assessment for the MCA. So it's directly tied to the same or similar and same content and as the MCA. So students we can offer the math OLPA twice this year, and then we can offer the reading OLPA once this year before the kids take the MCA. And so we can really get a great snapshot early on of where the students are at and what it is that they need, and adjust our instruction as needed.
Okay.
And it's an opportunity to, it's a great incentive for students because they get to see what their growth targets are, and by taking which is the MCA growth targets. So with the OPA gives a very good snapshot of what our students will project to get in the MCA. So when our students hear what their growth targets are, they're excited. There's an incentive to take that OPA test to see where they are compared to their target. And then that incentive to work harder in the classroom, we're hoping to see that so that when they take that test again, they'll see that they're closer to their growth targets, and which is create success for all.
Right. Are we measuring how well we're doing in terms of growth from one? You talk about new groups of students coming in. Are we able to measure, yes, you've got a certain score when you started, but you really grew between one MCA to the next. Are you measuring that?
Correct, and I believe that part of the MMR score, that we're, the scorecard from the MDE, one of those categories is growth targets.
Okay.
And that's what we focus on. So I mean, when we take the MCA, when we give students tests, we always look for results right away. And I know the MCA, we don't get them right away. And so with doing the OPA testing and the target growth, it gives kids that incentive to do well.
So that does get reported out then, how well they're progressing from one MCA to the next?
Correct.
Okay, great. And how are we doing as far as recruitment and retention of Columbia Heights students? That came up in last night's debate. Are we measuring that in terms of keeping our own community students?
Well, I believe, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, going out door to door, we were able to target some students who weren't attending here within our borders. And the high school made an effort to do that, visit those families. I'm sure there's going to be another effort to go out and do that. We'll see where we're at. I know that we've gone to neighboring schools that are in our city and recruit students that are going to schools within our city.
Great.
So I'm not sure how many of those students that we go and visit are attenders. I'd have to go and see if I can get that data.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that. That's critical. Are we doing any internships other than Genesis in terms of getting students into work experience while they're in high school?
We do have a program at the high school, a work experience coordinator. We have a work experience program as well as a work experience coordinator, and we do have students that are involved in that program.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I got.
Anybody else? Really excited about the demonstration of the upward text that we're and you say it's okay to recognize where you are, but not necessarily stay there, but recognizing as we're taking that approach, we are moving forward and we're finding some of those, noticing and recognizing the fact that we're headed in the right direction. So I'm encouraged by that. So thanks for all your hard work. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks. Next up is the school store update.
Good evening, Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. This evening, we are going to speak about our new online store that's available for everybody in this room, in our community, and people outside of our community. So our mission here, again, it's been stated multiple times, but Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner. And tonight, I want to focus on community and what we are doing for the community and how my department and everybody else in all of our schools are getting parents and community in Columbia Heights gear. So I'm going to share with you the new online store, and it's easy to get to. This link is on all the schools' websites, so if you went to Valley View, you could just click on Online School Store. On my website here, it's right here. And we will get there. So I'll talk while it's loading, but we are collaborating with a company called Identity Stores, and really just updating apparel, making sure it's accessible to my coaches, my sports teams, my parents, and the community here. So I am... It's going. Sorry. So with Identity Stores here, it's free of charge. We do get a 10% kickback from whatever's purchased, and that goes to the activities and athletics department. We can do promotions for staff. Hopefully I'm going to show you here. Our staff store. Oh boy. Okay. Yep. So like I was saying, we can do special promotions for staff, and how we promote that is through Director Mahan here with e-news and getting it out to all staff, doing announcements at athletic events, and just the goal is to create a sense of pride here at Columbia Heights. We really haven't had an online store here at Columbia Heights. We have, but there's been minimal participation by our community. So my goal is to get our community in Columbia Heights gear.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you, Casey. So on the screen here is our main page. This is open for anybody, our students. And we have sweatshirts, we have spirit wear, we have outdoor or headwear, outdoor wear, we have female ladies clothing. So that's just on our main page that's open for whoever would like to go shopping. This is easy to navigate. You can put in your credit card. There isn't issues. There's multiple sizes. Say if I want to buy a sweatshirt, we go here, type in, I feel in shape today, so I'm going to go adult medium. And then I can check that out, okay? And then over here to the left, there is, and we can do how many are, as many promotions as we want, but I would open up Columbia Heights staff apparel, okay? I can go here, and I would open this up for a couple weeks, so our staff or community members could come in here and get more of a staff apparel to wear during the day. Also, I'm working on collaborating with my all my activities and athletic groups and programs. If I were a parent of a certain athletic program, I could go in here and grab gymnastics, which we've set up for our parents here, but it's not going back to the page. So I'm going to show you one more example. Okay, over here. So gymnastics. This is a specific program, but if I was a gymnastics parent, I could come to this page. This is open for our students. This is more efficient. We're not dealing with separate checks coming to my office. Athletes can just go on to this webpage and grab whatever apparel they would like. This is open for parents too. So that's about it for the online school store. Any questions for me?
They just ship it right to your house then?
Yep. You just type in your address and they will ship it right to you.
You okay?
I was going to say, I would comment on that, and that we actually placed an order, and the website is very, very easy to use.
Okay.
It came in a timely fashion. I think it said 5 to 10 business days.
Yep.
It was there within that time frame. And then just a comment, I'm not sure how much you had to do with picking out the products themselves, but very high quality. The sweatpants, it was very, very nicely
Good.
Done. So I was very happy with the order. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Do any of the profits go towards our school activities, or is it?
So we've just started this, but we would do, we are going to get a kickback of 10%, and that 10% will go back to all of our kids participating in activities and athletics.
Great.
Okay,
All
thanks,
right.
Matt.
Thanks.
Next up is the summer program data. This was some information that member Landwehr had asked that be brought back. Zena, Kristen, Nicole.
Chair Larkin, members of the school board, Superintendent Kelly, thank you for inviting us to return to present some of the data that is that's representing the information that we presented at the October 27th board meeting. And this is regarding the summer programs that we provided here in Columbia Heights Public Schools. We focused our work and continue to on our district mission statement of creating worlds of opportunity for every learner. And in this presentation this evening, we'll be focusing on the core values of community, excellence, and collaboration. I wanted to give you a little bit of data about the Bridges to Kindergarten program. The request was made for some data to see if these programs were effective. And so from the community ed programs that we provided during this past summer, the program that we were able to pull some data from in collaboration with the Department of Teaching and Learning, and I thank my colleagues in that department, we were able to identify that the students who participated in Bridges to Kindergarten did see an improvement in relation to those students who did not participate in Bridges to Kindergarten, both in letter naming and in letter sounds. That was an assessment that was done by our Teaching and Learning Department during September and October at the 3 elementary schools. And you're familiar with our Bridges to Kindergarten program. That's a program that is a 3-week program at the end of July, beginning of August. And we do, in particular, encourage students who have not had a pre-K experience to participate in that in order to start off with kindergarten in a more sturdy position.
So I'll continue talking about elementary summer programming. The general education summer school is really an intervention, and the idea is to provide remediation for targeting students who are far below grade level. Elementary summer school is funded by ALC. The District 916 is who we partner with to provide that services. Of course, we have our own summer school here at the elementary level. So one of the major goals for the program, if you think about who we're targeting, the students that we're targeting are kids who need the most support. So one of the main goals is to prevent that summer regression or summer academic regression. People know it as summer slide, for example, right? And so with the assessment, the cognitively based measure assessment, looking at literacy, letter naming, letter sounds for kindergarten through first grade, and then fluency in reading for grades 2 through 5. What did we see when we looked at the rate of regression of academics for students this fall compared to last spring? And so we did see that students who attended Columbia Heights Summer School, general education summer school in elementary, did not regress as much as students who did not attend summer school. So here you want to see the smaller number. You want to see less regression. It's an inverted graph. So they're separated. Grade 1 is a different assessment than grades 2 through 5. So grades 2 through 5 is a bit more of a sophisticated assessment that we offer. So I'll move on to the middle school. In middle school, it's the same criteria for students and some similar goals with reading and math, really wanting to target students or we need to target students who qualify under the certain criteria. The most common best criteria is looking at students who are not meeting standard or who are far below grade level. At this time, we talked about, earlier in this meeting, we talked about ULPA, the ULPA testing, and that is what we're using as our measure. The testing window from the state just opened, and so tomorrow morning, this week, we've started at the middle school with the assessment. Like I said, the window just opened, and tomorrow we'll start at the high school. So that data is in process, and you'll get it at a later date. For high school, we're targeting the same group of students, but it's a little bit different. We're looking at students who are deficient in credit and wanting to, or needing to make up their credits, right? So this year's been a little, there was a change in our high school summer school with the 916 programming. We worked with 916 programming to, the request from 916 was to move our entire summer program at the high school to Metro Heights, whereas we had always housed our summer programming with our teachers here at our high school. So we worked with 916 and came to some middle ground for at least for last summer. We were able to host a few weeks of summer school, but using 916 processes and procedures instead of our own teachers and our own kind of enrollment process. And then if students did not complete the required work in order to gain the credit, then they were to attend Metro Heights until they were able to make up that credit. So some of the changes for the summer school model was the registration. 916 folks came to the high school and targeted students and had meetings with students, identified students. It was an extensive registration packet that families had to fill out. But we recruited as much as we possibly could. So you can see this year the number of actual students who enrolled in summer school went up due to the increased. We knew with the registration packet being so big that we would need to campaign and recruit strongly. So we did do that. As I mentioned, the location changed, the teachers changed, and then the schedule of the course changed. And so that resulted in actually fewer credits being earned. What that means is more students earned partial credit. So for Columbia Heights High School summer school, we offer half a year credit or a full year credit depending on the coursework. Students who attended Metro Heights summer programming this year earned 0.2 credit, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 credit. So even though there were more students attending, they earned fewer credits overall. So the results are a little bit mixed there with that.
But just to make a quick clarification, because I know when I look at transcripts of students enrolling, alternative learning centers, ALCs, like the 916 ALC, have the capacity to do those partial fragments of credits, whereas traditional public schools offer, as Director Stenbeck said, a semester credit, so that's why you get some of those fractions.
How will summer school look for next year for us? Are we looking that far ahead?
So we are going to be meeting with the folks at 916 to have that conversation to see what their guidance will give us.
Okay. And so right now, if a student would have earned 0.2 credits, is that realistically going to benefit them come graduation? Or is it, if it's in a certain study area, are they going to need to earn that 0.3 next year for it to make up? Because we don't have the capacity at Columbia Heights High School to do that. Does that make sense?
It would seem that way. We are looking at a case-by-case basis to see each of the individual students and what it is that they need to graduate. So the dean model at the high school, is able to look through and partner with each of the students individually to see and guide, communicate with the parents and guide them as they're enrolling for classes in January.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like overall, at the early childhood stage, you do see academic growth through summer school and less regression at the elementary stage. Not necessarily growth, but less summer drain. I don't forget the technical term, but and then the high school, they're making up credits and achieving in that way. Is that fair? It seemed to be that's what I gathered. Okay. So it seems summer school is worth the time and effort for those students to put into using their summer. Okay. That goes against, I've heard other research saying it isn't, so it's good to see that this is a good use of our resources and time.
If I might also just add that with the Bridges to Kindergarten, that's a 12-day program, and a lot of that program is to help the students become familiar with the routines of being in school, which really gives them the jump start. So some of it is academic, but a lot of it is also, for at least Bridges to Kindergarten, helping the student familiarize themselves with the structure and routines of school, so that when they start the first day of kindergarten, that's already familiar for them.
And I'm not sure which level the research was at, so maybe they didn't include early childhood. Sure. But thank you. This is great.
Just a a brief comment on special ed. The reason there's not a slide up there is it's, of course, everything regarding special education has to be complicated. There, in the spring, when the families meet with the IEP team, with their case manager and student, they look at a regression model, and basically it's a formula that's set by the state that the team fills out together to determine whether there would be regression if the student didn't attend summer school or not. So I didn't want to dilute her conversation about regression versus growth, because the regression model in special education for students on a IEP, individualized education plan, is different. So it's very formulaic, and it's set by the state, and the families sit down in the spring and determine the need. So.
Actually, I'd like to add to that as well. Every year at 916, we look at an extended calendar for the students with IEPs. So we have to actually vote on extension of the contact with the students over the summer, because the constant reinforcement is what gets these kids moving up. So that's pretty typical. I wasn't aware that we did it here. That's very interesting.
The high school, when you talked about the .2s and the .3s, is that all the students are needing, or is that just what's available through that program?
So through that program, my understanding is that it's the amount of work that they complete in that amount of time. So students who came to Columbia Heights for the 3 weeks that we were able to offer on-site instruction over the summer, completed up to a certain point, so perhaps a .2 credit. And then we were able to provide bus tokens so that students could get to Metro Heights if they didn't have their own transportation. And if they continued and got their .5 or their full credit, they were able to do that. Otherwise, if based on as far as they got in those 3 weeks that we offered here, then perhaps it was a .2.
Okay.
So an easier way to figure it out, just because I deal with this all the time, is that if you attend Columbia Heights Public School, summer school, you're expected to have good attendance, to attend every day, and you're given you're working off the state standards, and you complete that amount and you get that credit. Whereas alternative learning centers are set up where they factor in seat time and state standard and how much is actually produced. And so they can fraction off that, because a student could maybe go for 2 days and then not go for 3 days and then come back for a day. So it's a little bit more complicated formula than how we know traditional come to school and have good attendance and good attitude and do your work. So that's how they get those fractional.
Okay, I was just looking at the higher enrollment, lower credits, and trying to understand how that worked out. So,
Yeah,
okay.
it's attendance plays a big piece of it.
Okay, thank you.
Is the special ed programming provided by 916, or do we provide that? in the
If
summer?
the student attends 916 for their normal programming, our residents that we send to the Setting 4 programs that 916 provides, they would attend there as well.
Okay.
If they are in our attendance area and go to our public schools, then they may or may not qualify for summer school based on regression model.
Do we offer summer school programming through our district, though, for special ed?
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
Okay.
And depending on the student's need, it can look very differently. So many of the students that Zena spoke about could be students on an IEP as well, or we have specialized summer school instruction as well for students who have greater needs or needs in the social skills, functional areas, self-care areas, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a question here. Now, with working with 916 we had a presentation from the directors, and they were talking about it's not just it's 1,000 basically individuals. So each one you have to assess differently to figure out they're short here, they're short here, they're short here, they're short here, and how can you get them the materials, the curriculum, the support, and all that other stuff. How it sounds like the collaboration might have been just a little not quite it doesn't seem like quite as many credits were earned as we've seen in previous years, but yeah, we had more resources. So I'm just wondering if was there lack of collaboration, or I know it's kind of
For the high school program. Actually, 916 came and met, and there was definitely a lot of collaboration in that they did say, okay, we hear you that you want your summer program in your hometown, at the location where the students is easily accessible to the students, and so they did give us the 3 weeks. We typically run a longer summer program, and so once that time was up, then students were allowed to go and continue at Metro Heights. So there was definitely collaboration. And I mean, instead of what the original proposal would be that summer school for high school students would only be at Metro Heights.
Oh, okay, I understand.
And we're going to look, when we analyze that and meet with them after winter break, we'll analyze, what worked, what didn't work.
Okay.
And one of the factors, attendance, one of the factors, they didn't know the teachers, whereas they would know their teacher here. So there's things that we're going to look at, but I'm glad Director Stenbeck said that it was very collaborative, and they're very willing to work with us. I mean, 916 is us, right? And we are them. So we're going to make it work. It was a different model than we'd used, and, we look at the data and we go from there.
Yeah, it's a huge undertaking. So that's why, I'd like to see this move forward and be more productive for the students being able to get their credits. It's hard for the kids also to get it down here during the summer when all their friends are out doing other things. So that's got to be an extra little hurdle to overcome. So, thank you.
Bill? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Next up is the TRA.
Chair Larkin, members of the school board, Superintendent Kelly. Tonight I'm going to talk briefly, kind of give you an overview or a summary of GASB 68 and what that means for our school district. A week from tonight, we'll be having our audit report during our work session, and the auditors will go through this again. But I wanted you to kind of be prepared because we have some large changes, which we talked about throughout the year, but we really didn't have any specifics. But tonight I want to talk a little more specifically what's changing in our statements and why. First of all, our mission, which we've talked about several times tonight, but we really are here to create worlds of opportunity for every learner that we have here at Columbia Heights. And tonight, I think we're just talking about integrity. We want to be very transparent of what's happening with our finances, and and try to have the community understand what these numbers mean. Of course, GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. There's a group of CPAs that get together and make rules for all of us to follow. And really what's happened here is they've looked at pensions being not funded at 100%, and knowing that all these funds come from school districts or cities or states, that truly eventually, those entities are paying all the dollars that go into here. So that's why they think that these dollars should be sitting on our books, even though it truly isn't our responsibility to make sure that it's fully funded. So just my little sidebar there. But the 68 just means it's rule number 68. Okay, they have a big list, and it just gets longer and longer. GASB 68 requires employers to include a portion of TRA and PERA unfunded liabilities in the financial statements. And that's, as you know, back in 2008, when we really had an economic crisis in this state, we looked, both TRA and PRA lost a lot of money that year, and everyone was very worried that they weren't going to have enough money to pay out the benefits to the employees who are retired. Now, since that time, we've had quite a few changes legislatively, and if you talk to all the employees, you know that the dollars that they pay into their pensions have gone up quite a bit over the last few years. But we are up now legislatively up to the the tops of each one of those tiers as they've added in. This, a year ago was the last time there was an increase to TRA. Well, one thing to remember, pension information has always been disclosed in our footnotes of our CAFR. This isn't something that's new. If you look back at our CAFR in the footnotes, it talks about the benefit levels, what our employees get, and what they pay into these pensions. The new standards redefine where the pension liabilities are accounted for. So what's really new? The new is the allocation of the pension costs is to the local government, cities and schools. And really what's happening is we're moving the costs from the pension system's books to the employer's books. So the liability, that piece that they're short, like Ted said earlier, the TRA is funded right around 80%. It's actually a little bit better than 80%. That 20% gap is what we're talking about. That's up to the 100%. And that's what's coming back into the school district's books. Things to remember, pension expenses are not crowding out essential services here at the school district. Pension costs are not bankrupting the school district. And we will not need to write a check for the liability. And this was something the auditors, we had a meeting with the auditors today, and this is, I think, kind of struck home, just realizing that whatever this liability is, this isn't something that we're technically responsible for and we'll be writing a check for. Now, a little background on the rating agencies and how they're looking at this. So Moody's, statement from them, Minnesota's relatively well-funded pension system is a credit strength. So they're really looking at that 80% as a positive when they compare to other states that they rate. Fitch, on a combined basis, the burden of debt and unfunded pension liabilities is well below the median for the U.S. states rated by Fitch. So they, again, feel that Minnesota's in pretty good shape when we look at the unfunded mandates. And then the S&P, Minnesota pension plans are responsibly well-funded relative to those other states, and there have been significant reform measures. We would expect these changes to improve funded ratios over time. So let's talk about our liability. Our net pension liability for TRA is at $17,118,000. When we look at PRA, of course, we have less employees in this group, so it's a lesser number, but we're just under $5 million. So we look at the total net pension liability of $22,060,000, and that's the number that gets put onto our balance sheet, and you'll see that a week from now. And what I did, the balance sheet, I was going to throw the whole balance sheet on here, you kind of see it, but it was just it was so small in font you couldn't see anything. So here's just the liability section of our balance sheet, and I just highlighted the bottom. That'll be the very last liability listed in the liability section. You can see that there are $22 million as a liability on our balance sheet. Now the other piece of it is the change in accounting principle, and this is where they go back to where this started, was back in 2014. So as of June 30th, 2014, our actual TRA pension liability was at 18.3, and PRA was at 5.7 million. So you can see that the change in accounting principle, when we go back to the beginning of the school year, was technically a total change of almost $25 million. And this is what the change in net asset statement, on the bottom of that statement, you'll see it on the statement next week, but our total net position last June 30th, 2014 was $10,950,000. Our change in net position this past year was actually an increase of $1.5 million, but then when we put on the change in accounting principle of the 24,981, moves that net position down to a negative $12.5 million. And this is where it's going to kind of pop out at you and say, whoa, what's going on here? We don't have a positive net position, but it's duly entirely to the change in the accounting principle and accounting for these liabilities. So just to kind of go through this again, just as a summary, first of all, GASB 68 requires the school district to disclose pension liabilities on the district's balance sheet. I guess it's very important to understand there's nothing the school district can do to fix it. There's nothing we can do, even if we raise our fund balance up, it's not going to take care of this liability. It's always going to be there. I think as the legislature looks at it, we're going to see an improvement, I think, in the funded percentages of these, and as that happens, our liability will decrease. The numbers, again, we can't control the numbers. The numbers come directly from TRA and PERA. So it's totally out of our control. It's a number that we've had to hold on the balance sheet, and it will affect that our net position. So again, as TRA and PRA improve their funded percentage, the liability will decrease. So I think that's kind of an overview. I guess, is there any questions?
Okay. First of all, actually, that number is a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. So I'm probably the only one at the table that doesn't have my jaw on the ground, because when I first heard about this, what I understood was the legislature has control over these particular funds. Mm-hmm. That is correct. And they decide how much we are to contribute to these funds, and we are not allowed to contribute more or any less. And so it's entirely in their hands. But what they did, other states, the districts do have control over this, from what I understood. But Minnesota's a little different because it's the legislature.
Most states these types of programs are controlled by the legislature. And even here in Minnesota, there's actually a board of directors on each of those groups, the TRA and the PRA, who look at the benefits and what should be sent out as a benefit. So that really isn't driven legislatively. That's driven by the boards, and those are all peer members of those groups. Mm-hmm. So for an example, PRA, I mean, there's a couple, business managers from different school districts on there, superintendents on there, and same when we look at TRA, same thing. There's teachers, there's retirees. They're on those boards, and they really make the decision on what they're going to invest in and what kind of benefits are going to pay out. What the legislative piece is, we're going to collect this much money from the members to fund the group. So it's
contribution rates.
The contribution that's going to be paid, that comes from the legislature. Yeah. So that's why we can't really fix anything. The legislature will talk whether they should increase those rates, which I think there might be some pressure to do that, to get that funding rate higher. So, of course, a lot of people don't want to pay more, so it's going to be a good discussion. But it's kind of a two-piece cycle.
In 2010, we had the same discussion, and it's always like, I don't want to pay more, but I really want to have a pension. And employers say, we don't want to pay more, but we want our members to have their benefits. And what they did is they increased equally both the employer and the employees' contribution rates. And that really got us to the point where we're about 80% funded. And we have to be fully funded by 2032. And so the discussion at the legislature this year, and Ted was part of that conversation at AMSD, is are we going to repeat 2010 again and see if employers are going to kick in more, if employees are going to kick in more, to make sure that we're paying for it now and not kicking the can down the road.
Well, that number is just going to get bigger.
What's going to be?
The number will just get bigger if you're only staying at 80%.
Well, if it stays at 80%, the number will increase. But the idea is to get better than 80%.
Oh, yes.
And I guess one thing I didn't talk about, I should have talked about a little bit. If you remember, we talked about the number, that beginning liability number of almost $25 million, where now it sits on that balance sheet's at 22. So we received credit this past year for the dollars that we paid in to TRA and PRA, this year. And when we look at the change in what that is, in PRA we've improved like 14% of our liability has gone away. So that's terrific. And on the TRA side, it's about 6.5%. So we certainly have made progress this last year of making this number better. So I'm just curious of how this will shake out. We might be getting there faster than we think than 2032.
Oh, I should hope we'd make it before then.
One of the other things they said is, like, the good news is that people are working longer, and the kind of downside of that is that people are living longer. So there's the yin and yang to pensions. Mm-hmm.
So it looks like even with this liability on our books, we won't need to raise taxes or anything to
No, like I said, there's nothing we can do to fix the number.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing at
wanna
all.
make sure the
So
public hears
it's
it.
not going to affect the revenue we collect for our programming. It's not going to affect the taxes that we collect from our community members. Those things all remain constant. It's just, we're going to show a lower number on our net position than we have in the past because of the liability number that sits on the balance sheet.
But it's
And-
not a number, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that's happening to several districts,
It's
correct?
every
That
district.
is not just
Every
exclusive to
district.
Columbia Heights.
Well,
I
what
just
they,
wanna make sure
what they
people-
do is that they take the total liability number, they look at what percentage we paid in this year. I mean, ours is relatively small. And then they just split that out across the state of Minnesota. So everybody's got liability. I mean, so some districts might have had maybe a little more net position where their number might be quite as small, but I'm going to doubt there's any district that has a positive number.
But you just mentioned that it's not something we're going to be writing a check for, that liability.
Right.
Okay. So is it-
That's something that's going to be amortized over a period of time, up to 2032, but by then it's going to be gone, it's going to be zero.
All right.
But it's, it's only 2015 right now, so there's some years to go. But it should shrink on a yearly basis.
Barring a huge recession.
Yeah, we just never know.
Okay. Right.
Well, maybe we'll have 15% growth again.
Yeah, which is good. I looked at the PRA numbers, like, wow, that was a big change, so in a positive direction.
Yes.
You said the auditor's coming for the work session?
Yeah, during the work session, we'll have our audit report a week from tonight.
Okay.
Okay?
Anybody's got anything else? Thanks, Bill. We'll move on to our action items. First up is the teacher's contract. The board will be presented with a recommendation to approve an agreement between Columbia Heights Public Schools and the teachers, Local 710, covering the school years 2015, 2016, and 2016, 2017. Good evening.
Start? Okay. Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. We are here to present to you again the tentative agreement with the teachers. We presented the details in closed session for a negotiation strategy session a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. So just to review the general parameters of the settlement for your consideration and action, hopefully this evening. For the salary schedule improvement, it's 2.25% in each of the years. It's a 2-year contract, as is mandated by state law. And that's on the regular salary schedule. They also have a separate ECFE salary schedule, and the settlement is for 3% and 3% increases in each year, and in both cases, step movement in each year of the 2-year contract. On the extracurricular schedule, which includes both sport and all kinds of other extracurricular activities, the increases would be 2.25% and 2.25%. And then there was some cleanup that was done on that schedule to bring it current to the activities that you currently do have, some deletions and some additions. And no changes to longevity. The hourly rate of pay for outside of the normal duty day teacher duties is increased from $33 to $35 an hour with this tentative agreement. Insurance, there is no change in the first year and an increase of 3% in the second year of the contract, and that's, I'm referring to the district contributions to the teachers' single and family health insurance rates. And then retirement benefits, those have remained static for some time, and we made a slight increase as a part of the tentative agreement to $400 a month for retirees who retire after the close of this current school year. And there was an increase negotiated in the matching contribution in the amount of $100 at each level. It would be increased, and there are several levels, as we've discussed before, depending upon their years of experience in the district teaching for Columbia Heights. Some minor language changes relating to leave for extracurricular duties and method of pay, kind of a logistical issue, and approval for extra time for due process days for special education teachers to be able to deal with the paperwork they have, credit for prior experience in another school district. And then, as you know, we talked at length about class schedule changes and have deferred that conversation for the time being, at least, as no agreement was able to be reached there, largely within the teacher bargaining unit, with a lot of different interests and concerns. So, any questions?
Hearing none, could I get a motion to move that forward, please?
So moved.
Molly?
Second.
Laura? Discussion? Ed?
Were any members of the school board involved in the negotiations? The negotiation team?
Well, you've been involved all along in terms of our strategy sessions, and we take our direction from you. So I would say, to that extent, yes, you were very involved.
But we haven't been school board members have not been at the negotiation table.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And that's a concern of mine. The law says that this contract is between the school board and the teachers. Section 122A.44 says the board will employ and contract with necessary qualified teachers and discharge them for the same for cause. And I brought this up before, and I do want to bring it up again, that I believe that means the board needs to be involved in negotiating. I've been part of the closed sessions, I missed one, not being here because I was on vacation. But in the closed sessions, I basically have heard reports on how things have gone at the negotiating table, but haven't been, in terms of the board actually negotiating, I don't think that's actually happened with things to take back to the table and so forth. So that's my concern. And, as the school board under the statutes, the board is actually the entity that's contracting with the teachers, and the board has responsibility for the care, management, and control of the district under statute 123B.09. So it's a concern of mine, and I want to voice that again. And because of that, I don't think the board has authorized anybody to negotiate on its behalf, to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I've looked through the contract, and I haven't seen any incentives other than this regular, increase in pay for longevity and the number of hours that a teacher works towards their master's degree or PhD. And that concerns me as well. I know there are protections for teachers who don't perform adequately. There are steps that are taken. But in terms of incentives, financially or otherwise, for increasing their performance, I didn't see that in the contract, such as QComp, and I know there are issues with that. But I'm concerned that that's not there, and we're not moving forward towards that through the years that I've been on the board. So all that to say that I don't know that individually I can have the information, as a school board member, I need to have the information personally to be able to evaluate a contract, and not being part of the negotiating team or having even my colleagues as part of the negotiating team, I don't feel that I have the necessary information to approve this or disapprove of it. So having said that, I firmly believe this will pass tonight based on our discussions previously. But I'm going to have to abstain because of that. As a matter of conscience, I need to have information to be able to say yes or no, and I don't feel like I have that. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chair Landwehr. I just want to for the members of the public who maybe are not aware and might be listening, as is the custom with this school district bargaining team every single time, including this time, we repeatedly, as I said before, come before you and give you updates. And when the process is completed, meaning that there's a tentative agreement, every change that is made is done in bold, and there are strike-throughs for the old language, and I go through and highlight it in yellow to make it easier for you to read, and that was done quite some time ago, so there has been plenty of time for you to know what is and what isn't changed, and for you to consider it.
In addition, I'd like to add in the July meeting in which you were on vacation, Memberland, where we did solicit from the board any concerns or ideas that they might have for us to consider in setting some parameters, as we do in every negotiation process with our first meeting.
And I would submit that that's not really a meaningful time to do that, not knowing what the issues are. I have been at the negotiating table in my prior board experience from 96 to 2000, and there's nothing like that as far as the ability to know the issues, to talk to the union leaders. It is so much more comprehensive and able to give at least one or two board members, whoever gets selected to do that, a feel for the issues. So it's not a criticism of you, it's a criticism, it's a criticism of the process.
Motion on the table is whether or not we're going to approve the teacher's contract, not to discuss whether or not we're going to sit at the table moving forward with negotiations. So, any other discussion that's related to the motion that's at the table? I would add that I do feel that I was given the opportunity necessary to be able to make a decision tonight. Questions that were asked along the way through the closed sessions were, are we within the parameters? Are we meeting the guidelines that were established from the beginning? And the answer to that at that time was yes, and I presume is still yes. So I'm more than comfortable voting and making a decision on tonight's contract. So thank you for the effort that you've put into it and the information that you've provided, making it clear as to what the changes were.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to go on the record as stating that I fully agree with Chair Larkin, and that we have been given plenty of notice and information throughout this process over the last couple of months. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Laura?
I might as well go ahead and, also state that we were given ample opportunity for input, discussion, information. We were given regular updates, and we did receive a very thick agreement with everything highlighted, and I think there was even little page markers for where we needed to go, or was that something, that might have been something else, but it was very clear, and along the way we did discuss various strategies and what our positions were. So I do feel like it would be interesting to be part of the actual process. But I'm quite satisfied that we through extension that our concerns and interests were put forth and have been brought back in a very acceptable contract for that hopefully we can pass tonight.
Prior to moving forward, I'm getting the impression that Member Landwehr is planning on abstaining as the parliamentarian. I guess I've always been confused on when you do and when you don't abstain and what the purpose of it is. Can you help me understand, under Robert's rules, when an abstention would be appropriate?
My understanding is abstention is always appropriate on any vote. The chair should call for yeas and nays and then abstentions. And that would be the appropriate time.
Or a roll call.
Or roll call. Well, I believe that's on only after a member asks for a roll call.
That's what I'm saying. But you get to the same point.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, so, and again, I had more clarification than anything else. I was always under the impression that an abstention was when there was a conflict of interest, is when that was the majority of the time that would be used, so.
I believe that's called recusing yourself from a vote due to a conflict of interest.
You can also abstain due to a conflict of interest.
Sure, that could be a reason, yes.
Well, I think recuse means not casting a vote, whereas abstention means going with the majority. I could be incorrect on this, I'm not a lawyer, but that sounds correct to
And
me.
I'm not, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I just,
You're the
I'm not
closest thing.
finding anything, not finding anything definitive, just cruising it. So.
More courtrooms.
Okay.
Am I right
Can I
or
just say
wrong?
one more
I don't
thing?
know.
Correct.
I am correct? Okay.
Can I say one more thing, please?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just want to make clear, it's not a matter of not receiving information. I agree, we've received information throughout the closed sessions. Whether or not that is meaningful in terms of negotiation is my concern. So I don't want to say that we didn't receive information.
But if we're voting on the contract, it seems contrary to what you're saying. You're talking more about the process, we're talking about the contract. So I'm confused as to why you'd be abstaining from approving the contract if you're talking about the process, in fact.
This topic.
Again,
is
it's
a bit
because
out
I
of order.
don't have enough information to make a judgment pro or con on the contract. So I'm not going to, due to the process.
Okay, I'm confused too, but is there any other discussion on the motion that's on the table, which is to approve or not approve the teacher's contract? Okay, I am going to call for a roll call for this, so if you would, Laura, please call the roll.
Lewis?
Aye.
Landwehr?
Abstain.
Larkin?
Aye,
Palmer? Aye.
motion passes. Thank you.
Point of order, though, I believe a roll call vote's only required only after someone has made a motion to have a roll call vote. So,
Okay, do you want to go back and change it then?
nope, I'm just raising
My
that point under
understanding
Robert's
is
rules.
that, actually, in the past, where I've seen it, where you've actually called for a roll call, you didn't call it a roll call, you called it something else.
A division.
Division.
Division, and I don't know that you made a motion for a division, you just called for a division, we did a roll call, so I don't know how it's any different other than terminology.
That is technically a motion for division.
Call for a division.
Right.
Okay. All right, well, I guess then,
Should we stand when we make our vote?
I guess I want to make sure that this is going to be, this is going to, and I guess I'll turn to you, Karen, is what we did with me calling for a roll call without making a motion, and the best of your knowledge, is that an appropriate way to take the vote? And
Yes, in my opinion, without reading, I'd really have to go back and read that particular section. But in my understanding, yes, that would be sufficient. And I would also just add that Robert Rules of Order is simply, it's not legally mandated.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really a means of having some rules to ensure a proper order and decorum in conducting a board meeting.
and calling for a roll call would fall under
Correct.
Robert's rules as well, so there's
Correct.
nothing that later someone's going to come back and say, well, you didn't make a motion for a roll call, so that vote is not valid or doesn't pass.
Correct.
If we wanted to be perfectly sure, we could do it
Right.
both ways, and then we
Yes.
would
Can we
not
do that?
invalid the
Just
the
to-
contract, because this is very, very important to
I
our
agree,
teachers,
and
and
I-
I think it sends a real signal to the staff if we, for some reason, would have to revisit
Right.
this. So we've done it one way. A suggestion, although I'm not a voting member of the board, would be to call for a motion and do the vote again.
Could I make a motion
Sure.
to do a roll call to get this contract passed?
Have a second for that, please.
Oh, second.
Okay.
I thought you were seconding.
Any discussion?
I would say, point of order, I believe the proper way is to vote aye or nay without a roll call vote. And then, depending on that vote, if someone wants to call for a roll call, then we could re-vote as a roll call vote. I believe that's the proper procedure.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to have a roll call. Any other discussion?
To do the roll call. No, well, let's just do
Okay.
it the way that
All those
gets
in-
this done.
All those
Yes.
all those in favor of having a roll call, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Laura, would you please call the roll for the approval of the contract?
Lewis?
Aye.
Landwehr?
Abstain.
Larkin?
Aye.
Palmer? Aye.
Again, it passes. Thank you. Next up is resolution for special election judges. Don gets to come up. The board will be asked to approve a resolution for special election judges. Don Hoyam, our election clerk.
Good evening. Chair Larkin, Superintendent Kelly, members of the board. This is a resolution you probably haven't seen before because we only have to pass it because we are holding our own special elections. So it has been prepared to us by the county. There is one change I noticed. If you look on the very first whereas, the date of our second election primary is February 9th, not February 12th. So these judges will be used for all four.
So it would be for the February 9th?
Yes.
As opposed to the 12th, okay.
Correct.
Any other changes or as is written here, correct?
Yes.
Can I get a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Ted?
Second.
Laura? I'll read the motion. Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13, Columbia Heights, Minnesota Board of Education. Member Landwehr introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. Resolution appointing election judges for all school districts special elections held between December 1st, 2015 and April 5th, 2016. Whereas Columbia Heights Independent School District number 13 will be conducting elections on December 1st, 2015, January 26th, 2016, February 9th, 2016, April 5th, 2016. Whereas pursuant to Minnesota Statute, Section 204B.21, election judges for precincts in a school district election must be appointed by the board of that school district, and whereas persons selected to serve meet all requirements of Minnesota statute and county administrative policy and have been trained and certified pursuant to law. Now therefore be it resolved by the School Board of Columbia Heights Independent School District 13, State of Minnesota as follows. The individuals listed on attachment A are hereby appointed to serve as election judges for the school district special elections to be held between December 1st, 2015 and April 5th, 2016. In the event circumstances require judges to be appointed in addition to the persons named in this resolution, the clerk of election is authorized to appoint as necessary, provided that the persons appointed meet all requirements of Minnesota statute and administrative policy. The motion for adoption of foregoing resolution was duly seconded by Member Palmer, and upon vote being taken thereof, the following voted in favor, and the following, we'll get to the rest of it. Do we need to read the actual election judges?
You wish.
You read the name?
Or you could say as named below.
Okay, as named below in resolution attachment A. Any discussion?
So these have all been approved by the county then?
Yes, most of these are people that City of Columbia Heights have used in the past.
Okay.
Anyone else? Roll call, Laura?
Lewis?
Aye.
Landwehr?
Aye.
Larkin?
Aye.
Palmer? Aye.
Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Next up is appointment of the Board of Representatives. Excuse me. As a result of the resignation of Member Nichols, the following appointments of the Board of Representatives to standing committees need to be filled. So we need to determine who's going to fill the positions, and then we will need to have a motion in a second to pass them. So we've got the ECSU, which is open.
Can I jump ahead for a second? The school board's policy subcommittee, when is our next meeting for that?
It's going to be in January.
It will be in January.
I believe so. We're looking at
Yes.
January. as
So far, we
tentatively.
haven't received anything from MSBA with an update. We're working on some policies on our own, but we're targeting them for January as well.
Okay, I was just curious as to when the new person was starting, if we needed to fill that before then. Sorry, and we'd be redoing it anyhow. So is there any reason before January to fill that subcommittee position?
No, not necessarily. The organizational meeting,
Yeah.
when we have that, it would still just be us. So it's going to be, in essence, one of us that be doing that. But we would probably we rotate too, don't we? So,
I just thought.
go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Usually it's 3 and 3. okay?
Right.
But I served on it a couple of years. Having the subcommittee being 3 members, it's
Well,
still a
make it a-
majority
yeah,
of, it's
probably
a
should-
quorum of the board.
So it probably should just stay 2
I
for
think we
now.
should keep it as 2
That's a good
until
point.
we have more than 5 members.
Okay. So if unless anybody's opposed to that, we'll.
Much as I would love to be on the subcommittee
We
on
know.
policy.
Okay, no, okay, then I think that's an excellent suggestion, and unless anybody's opposed to that, we haven't got to the motion piece yet, so the motion would, if I'm understanding correctly, would not include replacing the school board policy subcommittee position, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You know, I
and-
had just had one other thought,
Yeah.
if I might interject. EXU already had their annual meeting, and that's for this person, it's a one-time meeting, and so that could very well wait, because their next annual meeting won't be until the end of in 2016, at the end, and you'd have somebody in that spot too. So the person effectively on EXU would not have anything to do between now and seating the new board member in the organizational meeting in January.
Comfort level with following the same course of action as the subcommittee as far as not doing anything with it until the organizational meeting?
I think that's fair.
Is it- go ahead.
Could we appoint someone for EXU after the election?
Well,
of the new members?
You'll do that at the organizational meeting, or you could leave it to be determined.
So it could be done later?
Yes.
Okay. I'd recommend that.
And for now, then, we're okay with putting on us at least to the organizational meeting in January.
Yes.
Okay,
That'll just be suspended for now.
suspended now. And everybody was okay with that for the subcommittee, yes?
I think that's wise.
My only concern is, once the new board member is elected in January, there'll still be a majority if we add somebody.
Good point. So we probably should just be planning on at least
Until we have.
until the second special election, we would want to keep it at 2 irregardless, because 3 would be a majority of the 5 in January as well, so it's a good point.
Which we could have 3 if we post it, right?
We post it anyhow.
So it really doesn't matter if there's a majority.
It's still kind of like a quorum of individuals that would be making decisions and not, I mean, technically, we're supposed to discuss the policy and stuff, but we don't actually, when you pass something through the policy subcommittee, you're actually not passing it. If we had a quorum of individuals, it would effectively be passed at that committee. I would feel uncomfortable about having a quorum there.
And that's a
I think that's
conversation we
fair.
certainly could have at the
Yeah.
organizational
Let's get
meeting
through
too
this.
as well, for moving for now anyway, to get this moving forward. I mean, again, same as with the other one, just we'll address it in January and have a further discussion on it.
I would just say, on the other hand, having 3 minds working on it as opposed to 2, there's advantages to that as well, so.
Oh, certainly.
Certainly discussion when
Or
we
bring
go to
every
fill it.
policy to the work-study session.
Okay. So the liaison to the city of Columbia Heights,
I can fill in with that.
you comfortable with that?
Sure.
Okay. And then for the city Hilltop? I'll take that unless somebody else wants it.
Sounds good to me.
Fine.
Okay. So, I would need, I guess I'll make a motion that we move forward to fill the positions liaison of the City of Columbia Heights to be filled by member Lewis, and the liaison to the City of Hilltop to be filled by member Larkin. And I would look for a motion to move that forward.
Someone?
Yes.
Public
The liaison to the schools, effective July to January for Columbia Academy. So that's through the end of this year, right? No, that's, yeah,
Until
That's-
January 31st, 2016.
so that's a year and a half, so it's through the end of next year?
No.
They were just
No,
Through the
it's
end-
just through
through
the end of
January.
January.
Of
Next 2 months.
next 2 months, got it.
I can fill in with that as well.
CA, you okay with that? Okay, so I'll amend my motion. Motion would be to fill the liaison for the City of Columbia Heights with Member Lewis, the City of Hilltop, Member Larkin, and the liaison to Columbia Academy to Member Lewis. And Ted, you still comfortable with your motion?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
More discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next up is, we will be going into a closed session. In accordance with Minnesota Statute 13D.03, the board will meet in a closed session for the item on the agenda for the purpose of discussing negotiation strategies. Initially, presenters Karen Keppel, Superintendent Kelly, and I believe that's and Director Holmgren. So we are going to come back from our closed session at 10:34, and we are going to return to the open session, and we are at board topics. Does anybody have anything for board topics?
Real quick, Carner Blue, 9 a.m., November 17th. I had the date incorrect. So that's next Tuesday. If you do want to attend, you have to contact Linda over at 960. And I will be attending.
I think I put something in your packet last time, too. That could be a different one. It could be a different one. It was a program
There
review.
was a program visit for Capitol View.
Oh, then it-
which was about a week and a half ago.
Okay, I can't even remember.
Anybody else
I
report?
was not able to attend that one.
Yeah, I just wanted to I forgot to thank Larry Peacock for moderating last night. So for the record, thank you so much for him doing that at the school board debate, candidate debate. And thanks for the reminder that everything we do should be for our students and stakeholders. That really hit home too. So.
Anything else? If not, then we will close the meeting at 10:35.